Hey everyone, welcome back to the things we know. I'm Carrie Morin.
And I'm Lisa Callian.
Yay. And today we have a fun topic. Money, money, money. There's so many.
Money,
I'm
money, money.
hearing the ABBA song. I'm hearing so many songs in my
Pink
head.
Floyd.
Pink Floyd. We're talking about money because it traditionally we're kind of young, but for this, but traditionally generations of women haven't, felt empowered to talk about it. It's been distasteful or a topic that people don't talk about, and we want to normalize that and neutralize it because money is just yet another one of those currencies that helps us expand our power and our impact in the world, and it helps us express ourselves, and it helps us create more of what we want. And so we want to talk about that, like what a money mindset is, what our relationship to money has been and what it can be, and what's helpful around that.
Yeah, and I'm gonna say this is not a woman only thing at all. I mean, I know
True.
so many people. Nobody wants to talk about what they make, what they spend. We make assumptions based on how they live, how somebody lives. I mean, I think people probably look at where we live in a high rise in downtown LA and think that we must be rolling in it.
Yeah.
I am here to tell you we are not.
My mom,
And
my mom just asked me about that. She was like, "Where do they live?" "Oh, downtown LA.
right,
Fancy."
right. Oh, fancy. And I'm like, yeah, no. And the thing about money is it is just energy.
Right.
But somehow in this human plane, we have decided to attach coins and pieces of paper to it and give it an outsized version. But when you think about money, it is just an energetic exchange,
Totally.
And so I think I love you saying normalize talking about money because I try to do that as much as I can with people, and like, oh, I don't want to say I'm like, say what you make. Like, I'm proud of you, like
Right.
own it. The more it's like anything, the more you keep it in the closet, it festers. And then again, we give it outsized
Yeah.
importance,
Yeah, there's so many places we can go, and I'm like, I want to jump into all of them at once because I really want to get to that. Like, where does that come from, right? And I think you
Yeah.
have a lot of great things to say about that. And I think the goal here for me always with raising my kids in my conversations, yeah, with women, because I mostly coach women, but you're totally right. I mean, my husband and I both, came into marriage and talking about money, with a lot of just history, generationally
Hmm.
around lack, and like that
Yeah.
money only comes if you work hard, and otherwise money's bad, like all those things, which we'll get at. But
Yeah.
it like to to get to a place where we realize that it is absolutely neutral,
Yeah.
that it isn't positive or negative. It
Yep.
is exactly like one of the many tools, one of the currencies, like time, like love, like
Hmm.
food, that we get to a resource in our lives, but not like have be the driving force, not have it be in charge of us, but really have it be something that we can utilize and create with.
Yeah. I mean, if I asked you to tell me all the things all the sayings about money, money is the root of all evil, money doesn't grow on trees. It's all these negative sayings around money.
Mhm.
We think of people, I feel like we mostly see people who have a lot of money um not handle it correctly or not be generous with it. But the reality of it is there's a lot of people with a lot of money that do all those things, but they keep it to themselves. Like I don't know about you, but I know I've always heard stories around Keanu Reeves. Like he
Yes.
apparently like gives away tons of money, but nobody knows
And
because
he
he doesn't talk
doesn't
about it.
lavishly he'll like stand in line with the crowd and not like go
Yep.
to the VIP door. Yeah, I've definitely heard those. I love that you just brought him up as an example because that would not have popped in my head. But I feel like what you're getting at, and it's something we talk about so much as coaches, and it applies to more than just money, but is the like abundant mindset or the
Yeah.
lack mindset, right?
Yep. 100%.
um and we are all just naturally, it's not a judgment, it's just a truth that
Hmm.
so many of us in this society have grown up with a lack mentality. So the like hard working humble person is admired um and rewarded, by their just knowing that they did a good job, and then the like that, so there's it, but that's based on lack, right? And then the person who's rolling in money must have done something easy or
Mhm.
or
Yeah.
like they didn't. So it's weird, it doesn't even make sense. It doesn't mean that they worked hard to get it. Something must be wrong there, right? Like there's this there's this like fear or distrust of abundance, like that it doesn't
Yeah.
actually exist. Whereas when you come into life with an abundant mindset, and I think we've learned as coaches, not everybody has a negative money story. Some people do have a very like whatever it costs, I'll do it. It's
Yeah.
I can always make more, right? I
Yeah.
always love, I say this, I really believe this, like I will never be able to make more time. I can figure out how to make more money.
Yeah.
But, still I have to work through all the other things. But people with an abundant mindset really believe that it like what you need will be provided, and like having faith in yourself will create the abundance that you're looking for, right? And that sounds a little woo, but it really does come from some basic fundamentals of mindset.
Yeah, I mean, what you believe is what you're gonna get, you know? So if
Yeah,
you, believe that you have to work hard to make money, then you're going to have to work hard to make money.
right,
If you believe you always have what you need when you need it, then you're always gonna have what you need when you need it. That's where I sit, and I have
right.
sat there for, I mean, literally in college, Darren saw a psychic, and the psychic suggested a book called The Dynamic Laws of Prosperity. I mean, I can see it as clear as day, us sitting in his room at 209 Sycamore and talking about this. And just intuitively, we both felt like this is how we're gonna live. But then I also was bumping up against my parents' belief, or specifically my mom. Not that I want to blame moms for everything, but like my mom
Please
was,
don't.
yeah, yeah, really, seeing as I am a mom. But I just remember she was so worried about outliving her money. And she was but again, she grew up in with parents that came out of the depression, right? As we all do. Our grandparents went through the depression. So there's it's experiences inform beliefs. So I kind of got that, but I realized that I was holding on to her story even though I didn't believe that. But I think it was like a little thing in my head going, but you might run out of money. And the myself was going, but no, I believe I always have what I need when I need it. And so it was this internal fight that I had to break through, which I did with the help of coaching.
Yeah. I also want to just presence for a second. Like, I don't think either you or I are implying that somebody who's destitute like could just think themselves into money. Like there's so many factors here, and
Of
and I
course.
know that's, you and I are not implying that, because there's genuine lack that's happening where
Absolutely.
you need some support.
Yes.
And yeah, I do think like that fear sometimes does create such a small lens of like what's possible for you. So like there is something to shifting into a mindset that's going to really help you access what you need.
Well, I think
um
that when you talk about abundance, it doesn't have to be just about abundance of money, right? So I
right,
think that the people, no matter what tax bracket you're in, if you have an abundant mindset, you see abundance in time, in energy, in love, safety, belonging, in money. And if you have a lack mindset, then it doesn't matter if you're the richest human on earth, it's greed and I gotta hold on to it. You know what I mean? And so
yeah,
it abundance and lack. It's not about money. It's
that's
about
so true.
abundance and lack.
It's true, because I know I'm dear friends with people who have plenty of money who still have to work on the abundance of joy. So
Yes.
like
Yeah.
that, there's that as well. Okay, I want to get into what you were saying about like where it comes from in families, because I think that that's like really the nut of this. And before we
Mm.
do that, just to touch on what you said about energy, it reminded me of something a coach of mine said, years ago, which was, money like energy will be attracted where it is welcome. So
Mm.
if you're just bitching about Bob and gossiping about Bob, for some reason, isn't going to feel drawn to sit next to you if there's a seat on the couch at the party. Like he's going to sense something. Like whether or
Yeah.
not you even think of someone who reads energy or understands energy, you're going to not feel attracted to sit next to me if I'm bitching about you.
Yeah.
Money is the same. And again, getting into a place of people like, what do you mean? I really feel like when we are so convinced there's a lack, that there isn't enough, or that it's such a bad thing, we are blocking it. We are blocking the opportunities that could come to us. So I wanted you to talk more about maybe that, but also like, we've learned as coaches some fascinating, wonderful tools that have helped us understand that so many of us are walking around with stories that aren't ours.
Yeah. Yeah. I, I think I think you're exactly right around the blocking piece. It's almost hard to conceptualize that, which I think is what you're saying, right?
Yeah.
It's hard to conceptualize that I could be physically blocking money from coming to me, but what you put your attention to, you get more of, right? And so, um, I really like to talk to my clients, and I do with almost everybody I work with. At some point, we talk about money, whether they're an entrepreneur or not. It's it tends to come up really quickly in one of our very first calls. And so I like to talk to them like about the money archetypes as I know them: spender, saver, um, maker, and avoider.
Mm.
And we're all those things. We're all those on some level, but I really try to go in and try to figure out with them what they most identify with, because there's a light and a dark side to all of those archetypes. If you're a spender, or even an avoider, the money flows, right? And again, as energy, it needs to flow. So it's that great thing of it's like flowing in, but then there can also be a sense, the dark side of that is, um you might run out, you might not cover your bills. And then the maker and the saver, they feel super secure in what they've got, but they're not enjoying anything. They're making all this money, or they're saving all this money, and it's not flowing. And so they might bump up against a wall where the money's not coming in anymore, because they are so afraid of lack that they aren't spending any of their money. They're holding on to it super tight. And then money's like, well, I don't want to be there either, you know? So I think it's just really interesting to then take a look at, how did you grow up? And for the most part, when I talk to my clients around this, they do have a story of how, it doesn't really matter in what economic status they grew up. And I mean, I was
Never does. Yeah.
solidly middle class, right? But that it was always very known that, like, we just didn't have we nobody wanted to outspend our money, and so when I was able to sort of let that piece of it go, everything did sort of open up for me.
Yeah.
Um, and it's just a much lovelier place to sit,
It is. And
you know?
like a great example, and it's like a small example, right? But like we all know, or we've been, I'm both. I've been, and I've know people who are so uncomfortable talking about money. So they just offer to like pay the check at the bill, right? Like they just like,
Oh,
oh, I
yeah,
got
yeah,
it. I
yeah.
got it. See that a lot with men, but, no, 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 I got it. No, and they come up with these reasons.
Yeah,
You came to visit us or whatever. And it's
yeah.
so generous. I might sound like I'm making fun of it, but honestly, when you can get to a place where like, yeah, let's split it.
Mhm.
There's a great app out there called Splitwise when people do a group thing that just automatically like, you can make sure we leave Lisa off if Lisa didn't even participate in that one activity. Like there's so many great tools out there and reminders and models for us to just make it neutral. Like
Yep,
it's money and it's an
yep,
exchange for something. It's an exchange for a service. It's an exchange for a meal. It's an exchange for time. Like whatever it is, I love that because it's showing that we're getting away. There's more opportunities as a society to remember that it isn't a shameful thing. It isn't
yeah,
embarrassing. It doesn't mean anything. If you want to split, it's actually really smart and wise and generous to say like, you're capable, I'm capable. Let's get that part out of the way and spend time.
yeah.
So I love that because I did grow up with that feeling like talking about money's crass.
Yes. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Mhm.
And I love that it isn't, which leads me to like our early, and we've talked about this in other pods, but our early experiences negotiating our own salaries. And again, you're right, this isn't just about women, but for people, especially I think women, but who are raised to, not be selfish or greedy, or to who are thinking that like asking for a lot of money for something um is unnecessary. It was really hard for me to know what like my value, quote, air quotes, was especially because I started my career in nonprofit, right? And
Yeah.
it's just notorious. Like, and I do want to do, I think we're going to do an episode on just the world of caregiving and how undervalued that is, and how, we're seeing such a problem right now with all the people in the caring and service industry on
Yeah.
strike, as you
Yeah.
hear out your window all the time, because we didn't value
Yeah.
enough the helping work and the support work that this country relies on. So that, without going too far in that direction, nonprofit was like that. And so to be like out of college and thinking 22,000 a year, it was just like, I'm rich, really set me on a weird trajectory of my worth, because I was going to work any amount of hours to do the work I was doing because I was so dedicated to it. And over time, somebody said to me at some point, you can't keep helping the poor if you're poor. And I was like, that's a weird thing to say. I'm not poor. Like, that was a dumb thing to say, but it landed with me. And it was somebody who had struggled and had grown up in poverty. And I got the point. It was around the time where people were really taking issue with um, nonprofit CEOs making money. It was like,
Mm,
why should they make less just because it's nonprofit? Obviously, if
right.
we can prove they're not doing something gross with it, why can't they make a living that
Right.
is commensurate with their job? Just because it's nonprofit, why should somebody in for profit make so much more? So these things came up and really taught me a lot about, oh, you get to define your worth, and actually talking about it, and not being willing to give more time than you're paid for is not just empowering for you, it's empowering for everyone that comes after you.
Yeah. Yeah, you get to model it for them. Yeah, I mean, I will say I am not great at that. This is a weak point for me for sure. Not so much as an entrepreneur. I mean, I I'm comfortable with what I ask for to work with me. But as somebody who's an employee, I mean, I spent many years working for companies, God, 20 probably years working for companies where everybody just made the same. It didn't matter if you were a man or a woman. And um and so the light side to that was I didn't have to negotiate. The dark side was we were putting in a lot of work for not a lot of money, and it did tend to be in areas where, it was that kind of pay it forward mentality.
Yeah.
Um, but there was no wiggle room to ask for a raise. It didn't matter how successful you were in your role, you kept making the same money year over year. And so like anything, you have to kind of take the good with the bad. But I guess I'm kind of proud of how willing I am to make sure that what I do as a coach is commiserate with the work I put in,
Nice.
how much I make. Yeah.
What do you like? I feel like you have so many impressive, successful clients who credit you a lot with this. Like, where do you start with somebody who's like, kind of holding themselves back around this issue?
Well, I mean, the first thing I do is the money meditation that you and I have both learned as a coaches through the Health Coach Institute. That is a super powerful meditation, where you get to become money for a bit of time, and
Yeah.
you are asked some questions as money,
Yeah.
and it's
I
fascinating.
love that. I love
I
it.
love this one so much. It was a game changer for me. This is where I realized when it was done for me, when I was sort of the client, this is where I realized I was holding on to my mom's stories. And when you step into money, you're sort of asked, like, what are you feeling? And I was like, angry, and I was like, why am I angry as money? But it was, again, it was tied to all of that. So you ask a few questions around that, and then you step out and reflect on all of that. So I usually start there, and then I do talk them through the money archetypes. And especially, more often than not, it seems like when I am talking to somebody about money, they tend to identify as being an avoider, which is someone who doesn't look at their bills. They don't have any comprehension of the money coming in or going out. And asking them to set up a money date for themselves where they're putting on music. It's not contentious. open and lovely, and maybe they're having a beverage and they've got candles, and like make it a date and have this lovely relationship with money. You date money for a minute. And for the people that I've worked with that have done that, it's changed things for them immensely, you
Right.
know. And I'm not asking them to do it every week. I'm asking them to do it once a month, and then they
Yeah.
can increase if they want. But I think really stepping into money and asking yourself some questions about what you truly feel and getting super clear on what your relationship is instead of making assumptions about it is the
Mhm.
first step for sure.
I love that. Sorry, I'm sucking on a cough drop because I came home from my trip with a cough.
Yeah, no worries.
Sorry about the little clicking sound, everybody. It's better than a cough, I think. I love that too, that opportunity to really, again, look at it like energy and how you're in relationship to money, right?
Yeah,
How you and money can be opposed to each other, can be blocking each other, or can work together.
yeah,
I really love that because it is a currency. It is a part of our life that so I know so many people who are ruled by their fear of losing it or
yeah,
the this idea, this belief that they can't acquire it without selling their soul or without working so hard. And one of my favorite things to do when I'm coaching someone, and I think you and I have reflected this for each other too, is this idea like if you really believe the only way to create the abundance that you think you want is to work really hard, you can tell there's going to be parts of you that are going to hold you back that just doesn't feel worth it.
yeah,
And so my
yeah,
favorite reflection is, well, what if you've already done all the hard work? What if all the learning and the struggle has been done and now you get to just enjoy what you do or how you do it and then really trust that it's going to attract what you want? That's a scary place to be. And yet I've never seen that not work.
yeah. No, I think, and it, you know, it's important. It doesn't matter where you are in life. I think it's important to get right with money i- as quickly as possible. One of the things I realized when I did the money meditation as the client, so to speak, was that here I am saying, well, I got all my money stories from my mom. And then I had to turn the mirror around and look at myself
Right.
because I realized what I had been doing to my kids. And
Right.
one of the main things that I was really, I just was like a lightning bolt hit me was, and this was, I'm trying to think. I think because I was already coaching. So this was within the last 6 years, but I was reflecting back on earlier years when the kids were little, and like maybe they'd ask to go do something. And I would say, we don't have the money for that. But then maybe the next day we'd go out to dinner. And I can remember Liam saying, but I thought we didn't have money. And he wasn't being that made it sound judgmental, but it was more of like, he's like 10. He's
Probably
like,
worried.
but
Probably
I thought we
worried.
didn't have money. Exactly. And so, we're fine. We're fine. I remember that would be my reaction then. But after I had this experience, I realized and I literally sat my kids down and told them, I was like, here's what I've done all these years. When I haven't wanted to do something, I have said we don't have the money for it. Instead of being honest and saying, I don't want to do that. I don't want to go to Chuck E. Cheese.
I don't want to prioritize that.
I don't
Yeah.
want to prioritize that. So from here on out, I will be honest with you. We are fine. We have money. Money is always available to us. If I don't want to do something, I am no longer going to blame money because that's what I was doing. And I think probably that's why when I got stepped into being money, it was pissed at me because I was blaming it for things that I didn't want to do instead of just admitting I don't want to do that.
And he's like,
You know,
girl,
and I was like, bitch,
stop blaming me.
please. Yeah, exactly. Dude, stop it. So, I mean, I just got really, and it's interesting because it's still come up a few times. I mean, Liam would tell you for sure. It's still come up a few times around things. And we had to have another discussion not too many years ago. And we did talk about this in season 1 when Liam had a couple of allergic reactions and had
Mhm.
to go to the hospital. And in my fear of what was happening to him, both Darren and I said, oh my God, this is going to cost so much money. And Liam internalized that and so kept himself from going in the hospital when he needed to. And so we had to have another conversation and quite frankly, another come to Jesus for myself and for Darren around how we talk about that stuff with them. You know, of course we want you to go to the hospital. Of course we want you to get this taken care of.
Yeah.
You know,
There are, I
so
mean, and that's when we come into like expenses versus investments
right,
versus
right.
indulgences, right?
Yeah,
And and helping myself so that I can help my kids understand that, like, you know, you're working hard, your education is an investment.
yeah,
Um your your living stuff are expenses, those are necessary, and indulgences are important. Don't not
yeah,
have them. Don't never, like, but also understand that they're indulgences and they come after you've paid your expenses, right? So that you can avoid debt. What I feel like you have shared before, both on your personal page and here, like you've had some really good help, like, with financial resources and financial planning and things like that. Like, what are tools that you think have helped you?
yeah. I mean, we do have a budget. I do happen to handle all the money in the family. I do all pay all the bills and so forth. But in the thinking of I always have what I need when I need it. Darren and I, we moved from Ohio to Chicago, Chicago to LA. Charlotte was an Irish dancer. We've traveled. I mean, we racked up debt. There's no question. And I never regretted any of it. I mean, maybe a few too many meals out because I don't like to cook, but for the most part, like I didn't regret. I've never regretted the money or the debt we got into. In fact, I have another friend that I know, Chelly Campbell, who is a financial uh, distress coach, I think is what she calls herself. I'm losing my thought on what she calls herself. But anyways, and she talks about how you should thank debt, because you got to have these experiences. The fact that you have debt means you got to have these experiences.
Yeah.
And so, but at some point, we decided, you know what, we want to kind of nip this in the bud. And so we did meet with a company who helped us like bring down all our credit card bills and get on a level playing field over 5 years where we paid it off and is getting us out of debt. That'll end in 2025. And I was super happy to do that. It feels really good to move that. But, we still eat out a little too much. But then we do make different decisions about, like, we did have plans to make a big trip next summer or this coming summer. And we're not
Yeah.
going to do it, but, we're also, we're not paying for our kids to go to college. They're paying for it. Darren and I did, and we don't regret that. We'll help them however we can, but that's not
Yeah.
something Darren and I ever wanted to do,
Yeah.
and I feel good about that. I'm watching Liam manage his money probably way better than we did at that age.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, there is no shame in asking for help. There's no shame in declaring bankruptcy. It's a tool that is out there, you
True.
know?
Yeah.
So yeah.
I mean, I think that there's a lot of great tools out there. There's great resources, and maybe we can share them in the
Yeah.
like that are helping women understand how to invest
Yep.
and how to, understand the stock market, how to invest in real estate, how to get out of debt, all of that. And it, again, I say women only because when Carrie Peters was on, we talked about how it wasn't until the 70s that women were even, or 60s,
1974.
that women were allowed to have their own credit card that wasn't at all connected to a man's, their fathers or their husbands. It's
So
crazy.
that is 50 years ago.
Right. So we
So
are
we were
talking,
4 and
yes,
finally our moms could have their own credit card.
that's ridiculous.
That's insane.
Especially because when you think about all the women that were also managing household budgets and like how smart, how well they've done at it. But we're also in a time where like women have careers and don't necessarily get married, or they aren't staying married, or whatever it is. Like, it's so important for women to develop their own wealth. And
Hmm.
because what we talk about a lot is freedom, having your own wealth, having your own power, in
Yeah.
terms of, and really the way I see that is choices. More
Yeah.
choices allows you more freedom, and that all comes when you can align with money and see it as a tool, a team member, something that's going to help you express yourself more in the world. I always say to the entrepreneurs that you and I coach is like, money in the bank is representative of people you're supporting, people you're helping.
Yeah, the
So
more
the
money you
more
make, the
you
more
grow,
people you've helped.
exactly. And the more
Yep.
money you make, the more people you can help, the more you can
Yeah.
also invest back in your business and get, and have an even broader reach. So it's this beautiful exchange. And more often than not, what we have to do is help people get over the fear of asking for people to invest. Right.
Yeah.
And that's a really fun part for me because I had to learn that myself is you're not asking people to give you their money. That comes from that scarcity lack mindset. What you're inviting people to do, if they trust you, if they've connected with something you've said or you've made them feel heard and seen, you're inviting them to invest in this future version of themselves because you believe in it. And if they trust you to like get to the place where they believe it themselves, they'll get there, right?
Yeah.
And so literally inviting people to invest in themselves
Yeah.
is this great invitation. And I love that. And what I had to learn and what I love to help other people learn is honestly, you will never like unless you're some weird swindler, which I don't think anyone listening would be, you're never asking people, like tricking people or asking them to give up something that they can't. That's not it. People will always find a way to invest in or purchase the things that they want. And
Yeah.
I mean, at every income level, if you drop
Yep.
your cell phone in the toilet this morning, you're going to replace it by this afternoon. So just know that like the right invitation has to be there for people to invest in the things that are going to, bring them to a place in their life that gets them what they want. So why not have it be good people like you, valuing yourself, valuing your time, inviting people to invest in themselves in a way that both of you grow.
Yeah, I remember when I was going through my coaching training and specifically because there's pretty much not a coach on earth that I know anyways who got in this to sell themselves. It's
Right.
literally, I mean, it is the biggest block for sure around this and kind of going
I
back to
think that
the
applies to all entrepreneurs. It's not always,
I
yeah,
suppose that, yeah. But when you have a product as an entrepreneur, it's a little bit easier. But this
true.
idea of selling ourselves, right? Because that's what
Right.
it is. And I used to say, if you can't coach if you're not making money. So it's sort of the same as if you're poor, you can't help poor. But I mean, I can't coach if I'm not making money.
Mm-hmm.
And but I think, learning that this is an investment in yourself and that they're, as you said, they're not paying me, they are paying for their growth, they're paying for their what they're going to get out of it, and thinking about that in versus oh, they're handing me money and I've got to do the work. It's
Right.
just it's just not how it works.
Yeah, I used to do a lot of work with major donors in
Mm-hmm.
nonprofits. So, so much easier when it's like, this worthy cause, right? And you're
Mm-hmm.
right. At first I saw it as like, I don't know how to ask people to give like to invest in me as their coach until I saw it as, oh, I am doing the same thing. I am bringing a, wonderful resource together with a great need.
Yeah.
So I literally am negotiating an investment deal between someone and their future self. And it's
Oh,
really
I
not,
love that.
it's not about me. Like I'll
Yeah.
be here to hold the space for it and make sure it happens, but
Yeah. Yeah.
this is between you and you.
Yeah.
And it shifted everything for me.
Yeah. Yeah. And to your point, like I don't when somebody works with me and I do request a 6-month commitment because transformation doesn't happen overnight. But I
Right.
have had a couple of situations where someone's had to back out because they didn't have the money to invest anymore. And I let them go because
Yep.
I don't want anybody to ever go into debt for this, and
No,
when it just might not be the right time for them,
totally.
and doesn't mean they're not moving forward in some way, shape, or form. But this is never about, yeah, I don't want people to open credit cards. I don't want anything like that to happen to work with me. Like, I want you to be able to, because it isn't, again, it's not about me. It's about investing in themselves. And, one of the things we learned really early on is that stepping into investing in themselves might be the first step of transformation.
It
Because
100%
again,
is.
going back to, women and money, like we're so used to putting everybody before us, paying for
Mhm.
everyone else. And then we're depleted at the end. And so we can't even comprehend investing in ourselves because, well, that our kids might need that or the house
Yeah.
might need that. Well, hell, if you are not resourced, it doesn't matter how much money you have, So it's things, and it's not easy. It's not easy. I think you and I talk about this all the time. It's a constant conversation and a reminder I have to make to myself because
It's
as much at work as I've done around money, it's hardwired, and
well,
and so it's a
it's a
constant.
mindset, just like
Yeah,
habits. It we're genetically wired,
yeah,
generationally wired, and what I love about kind of like that legacy when I'm talking to somebody, so if like you're listening and you're wondering like, what's my money legacy? Ask yourself, like, what is your family story around money? And do you agree with it? And there's obviously going to be some positive values in there. Even in some really rough situations, you're going to find a positive value in it. And then you're going to like really look at what are the parts that have served you, and do you want to take that forward, or do you want to rewrite your own? And it's, again, like Lisa said, it's not just as easy as that, but it's really staying aware so you can start to like kind of create a new neural pathway around it. Like,
yeah,
how do I look at this with abundance, with possibility, with optimism? What are my resources? And what are new habits that are going to help me be more confident around all this? Because there is all this mindset stuff. And I don't mean to say it like that, like I'm belittling the woo side of us, but there is also the you mentioned avoider, that like all of us either are or know or have been, like avoiders at some point. And I don't know anyone who starts just paying attention with a little bit of gratitude or a little bit of awareness. I don't know anyone who starts to pay attention to spending that doesn't suddenly like create more abundance in their savings or in like their investments. Like just the attention to it, again, going back to that energy thing, just that openness and attention to it will create something you have no concept of if you've never done it before. And
yeah,
it's just worth saying, hey, I'm not going to avoid this just because it's uncomfortable. I want to be comfortable, so I'm going to start paying attention. And when I pay attention, I'm actually going to enjoy watching it grow.
yeah. I agree. Um, what else? Is there anything else you want to touch base on?
I feel like we could come back and do a different one. So I feel like we're good for now. Because I mean, there's like also just, we were going to touch on like major life events, career changes, divorce, becoming an empty nester. These are all opportunities to
Yeah,
really look at, you know, not to at all make wrong anything that has been part of your money history so far, but to like look at opportunities of where can I um learn and grow and make improvements. Like if your goal is freedom, if your goal is peace around
mm,
money, if your goal is fun, you can you can achieve any of those by simply like deciding to make it a priority.
absolutely. And I want to reiterate what you just said. As your money mindset shifts, like any transformation, I think there's a moment where you could be like, dang, I wish I did this earlier. No, it's going to happen exactly as it's supposed to happen at exactly the right time. Everything you've thought and believed up until this moment has been exactly right. And if you're ready to shift your money mindset, you will, and it will up level you, but it doesn't mean anything you did before that was wrong. It everything we do has kept us safe up until this point, and now it's just a matter of whether you want to up level it or not. Your
I
call.
agree. I agree. Did you say your call?
Yeah.
Love it.
You do you. So, as we said at the beginning, there's like a bazillion money songs. We could have done Money by Pink Floyd. What were you quoting? What were you?
I was quoting the ABBA song for some reason, but then when you were talking in different songs always pop in my head listening to people. It's just I've got this weird game show kind of response to like
Maybe
people's
you're
phrases.
clairaudient.
I don't know, but one of the I don't know what you were saying, but I was hearing, look at them losers, that's the way you do it. Like the Dire Straits song,
Oh
get
yeah,
money
yeah, yeah.
for
Yes.
nothing and chicks
I
for free.
really don't like that song, but I know what you're talking about. Yeah, it's one of my least favorite Dire Straits songs, and I like Dire Straits,
I
but
do
not
like
that one.
Dire Straits, but that song has just always been in my head, money for nothing and chicks
Yeah,
for
yeah,
free.
yeah.
I don't know
Well,
why.
that was
Anyway,
played on MTV like
way too much. Yeah.
way too much. Well, I gotta be honest. I'm going with this is what we called the episode, which is money, money, money. We are recording this in 2023, and tonight is opening night of Charlotte in Cabaret. So we are going to quote money from Cabaret. So it's literally just money, money. Mark, a yen, a buck or a pound, a buck or a pound. That clinking, clanking, clinking sound. Money is all that makes the world go round.
Mm.
I know, it's such a good song. That's such a good play. I'm so excited to go see it. I'm presencing the fact that this is not 2024 yet, but that's how we do it around here.
Yes, we record things so that they drop
Early.
on time for you.
Yeah. Yes. Oh, it feels good to be back doing this.
It does. It does. We took a little break because we were so on top of it. We got everything recorded right in time for me to go out of the country, for you to enjoy a holiday. And now we're back, and I'm so happy.
Yeah, it feels good. So thanks as always to everyone who is listening. If this has been fascinating, if it's brought some ideas up for you around money, please DM us on any of our social media, whether it's on Facebook or Instagram. You can email us at thethingsweknowpodcast23.com. That's where we're getting, I'm sorry, at gmail.com. Sorry. That is where we're getting a lot of our ideas when you guys reflect back to us what you heard, or gosh, you said this, what made me think of this. Could you talk about this? So please feel free to reach out and give us your comments and your thoughts about money. Are you an avoider? Are you a spender? Are you a maker? Are you a saver? And then if you're listening, please rate and review us, whether you're on Spotify or Apple or wherever you're listening to our pods.
Definitely. And we just to reiterate that we love hearing from you how these things land. And if you feel like you don't agree, we'd love to hear that too. We love to come back with like another point of view. So let us know.
100%.
These are
Yeah.
the things we know.
I was going to say, these are the things we know. It doesn't necessarily mean you agree with us, and we're totally cool with that.
I don't know about you. I think we have said this before. Like I definitely, the older I get, the more I realize I don't know. I love to talk about the things I know, but I'm also really aware all the time that like there's still so much more to know.
100%. There's a lot I don't know for sure. And we learn from you guys all the time. So thank you for that. All right. Well, that's this week's episode of The Things We Know, and we will be back next week. Thanks, everyone.
Bye.
Bye.